Sometimes to create, one must first destroy.
Hello guys, Croftus here. One of the most confusing aspects of Alien Covenant was David's act of killing the Egnineers. This action isn't explained in the film, making it one of the biggest mysteries about the movie. And what could be better than getting the answer from the creator of the Alien franchise, Ridley Scott himself, who talked about this specific topic on a podcast. In the Alien Covenant prologue, which is not included in the movie, David says that he learned the engineer ways.
I learned of their ways.
And one of these ways is that they wipe the slate clean when their creations don't follow the desired path. Because David has a superiority complex and aspires to be a god himself, he destroys the engineer planet to imitate the Egnineers, but his real motives are more complicated than that. Since the last time I discussed this topic, I have uncovered more information about David and his twisted psychology, so in this video we'll delve deeply into the reasons behind David's decision to annihilate the Egnineers. In addition to Ridley Scott pretty much giving the precise answer to this question, we'll analyze David's extended explanation in the early script and the Ozymadiaz poem he recites while destroying the engineer colony. So what are the engineer ways? Ridley Scott described the Egnineers as the gardeners of space. They cultivate various life forms on different planets, including humanity on Earth, the beings on the planet 4, and potentially many others. However, if their creations stray from the intended path that the Egnineers have set, they wipe the slate clean. And here's the direct quote from Ridley Scott. If the planet went wrong, they, Egnineers, would want to wipe it clean, but that could take 500 years. When they revisit, because different visitors would come back and see that we're not doing so well, they would look at these human beings that are jerks, that are killing the planet, killing themselves, not able to settle down. They're like a bunch of children, we should wipe it clean. This idea is borrowed from the Bible and other ancient Sumerian texts where, when humanity strayed from the righteous path, God or gods orchestrated various catastrophes such as the Great Flood to reset the human civilization. In the alien universe, these gods are depicted as beings from flesh and blood, the Egnineers. So Ridley Scott strongly implies that Egnineers are responsible for the Great Flood and other cataclysmic events that decimated human populations in ancient times. As depicted in Prometheus, the Egnineers prepared a ship loaded with a deadly pathogen intended for Earth. The movie mentions that the ship was ready to leave LB-223 approximately 2,000 years ago, coinciding with the time of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It appears that the movie integrates various events and religious texts into its timeline, even suggesting that Jesus was sent by the Egnineers. As mentioned in one of the early scripts, Jesus was taken to the engineer homeworld and then sent back to Earth with the mission of guiding humanity back to the righteous path. Ridley Scott also confirmed that this idea was explored in early scripts. According to many ancient texts, small groups of humans survived after various catastrophes. But because humans crucified Jesus, the Egnineers decided to enact a harsher penalty, planning to unleash the pathogen to exterminate all forms of animal life on Earth, leaving no survivors. So David, having studied the engineer ways, essentially the behavior and ethos of gods, wants to become a god himself to fulfill his once forbidden desire for creation. Therefore, David does the same thing to Egnineers as what they wanted to do to humans and proceeds to destroy the engineer colony on planet 4. And there's actually a specific reason David has a god complex. David was created in the image of Peter Weyland, a greedy and cold-blooded billionaire. As a result, David inherited similar psychopathic characteristics, which were further exacerbated by the unfair treatment he received from others. David also inherited a sense of superiority or a god complex from Peter Weyland. In a Prometheus deleted scene, Weyland tells the engineer that we are gods, implying that he's a god just like them.
We are gods.
This scene makes it clear that Weyland possessed a god complex, a trait that was likely passed on to David as he was created in Weyland's image. In Alien Covenant, David almost says that he is God, implying that he's a new visionary.
And are you that next visionary? I'm glad you said it.
But according to Ridley Scott, David's motivations are even deeper than a mere desire for godlike power. David harbors a pure, intense hatred for both humanity and the Engineers collectively, and it's not that difficult to understand why. In the Alien Covenant early draft script, there is the extended conversation between Walter and David, where David says, "Mankind was such a disappointment, ruled by superstition and avarice, despoiling the planet and ourselves in equal measure. No dignity, no exaltation, bloody animals in the mud, and no more." Furthermore, David has a very personal reason to despise the Engineers, as one of them literally tore his head off. Due to David's initial programming, he wasn't allowed to create, but this boundary was removed after Wayland's death. So now David harbors a strong desire to fulfill himself as a creator, particularly as a creator of new life forms, a role reserved for gods only. Therefore, fueled by the deep hatred for Engineers and humans, David destroys the Engineer colony to create a clean slate for his bioexperiments in order to fulfill his godlike aspirations. The second reason David annihilated the Engineers, which is somewhat linked to the first, is explained by David himself in the movie. While talking with Walter, David says, "They are a dying species, grasping for resurrection, so they are leaving the earth forever, but their power is an illusion. They don't deserve to start again, and I'm not going to let them." This statement can be interpreted in two ways. The first interpretation is that David is referring to humans and the Covenant crew attempting to leave Earth and colonize other planets. David, harboring a deep resentment towards humanity, is determined to prevent them from achieving their fresh start. He firmly believes that humans do not deserve a second chance to start again. However, the same quote could also be interpreted towards the Engineers. Instead of colonizing planets, the Engineers seed them with life forms created in their image and periodically visit them, as Ridley Scott said. The reason David might be referring to the Engineers is because of the word forever in the quote, "They are leaving the earth forever." This could be referencing the idea that the Engineers, conceptualized as gods, have stopped their once frequent visits to Earth. Both the Christian and the Hebrew Bibles mention mysterious giant beings called the Nephilims who were present on Earth before and after the flood. This narrative has parallels with the group of deities called the Anunnaki in the Sumerian tablets. However, in the last 5,000 years or so, there is no evidence that these beings have been present on Earth, indicating a stoppage of their visits. This absence of gods on Earth could be what David is referencing when he says they want to leave Earth forever and I'm not going to let them, which is the reason he tries to annihilate the Engineer planet. The third key aspect of understanding David's intentions is the poem that he recites. "My name is Ozymadiaz, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." We will not delve into the entire poem here as it's quite lengthy. However, in a nutshell, the poem is the depiction of a statue of the great king Ozymadiaz standing alone in the vast desert. Inscribed on the statue is a message glorifying King Ozymadiaz and the monumental achievements of his empire. This imposing statue was constructed during a time when his kingdom was extraordinarily powerful. Yet now, the statue stands alone in isolation in the middle of the desert, symbolizing that Ozymadiaz' once great empire has declined and now has been entirely forgotten. So according to the poem, time eventually reduces everything to oblivion, leaving even the mightiest kings and their empires to be forgotten. By reciting this poem while destroying the Engineers, David seems to be drawing a parallel between the Engineers' civilization and that of Ozymadiaz. Despite the Engineers' former glory and remarkable achievements acting as gods who created life on Earth, their civilization too is about to be perished and to become lost in the sands of time, much like that of Ozymadiaz. So these are the major reasons David annihilated the Engineer planet. Essentially, David acted as a furious god, trying to imitate the Engineers to fulfill his once restricted desire for creation. Thank you guys for watching, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel for more alien content. My name is Croft and I'll see you in the next video.